And then she came to us, and because of the community, because of what we teach, she hired people. She started serving, charging fees. She started understanding her numbers. And she says, I use Jen's magic spreadsheets, and really being proactive in terms of the way she was driving her business forward. And so she, since that time, has gone from doing about $600,000 in sales to doing, more like $4 million in sales.
Nice.
And so it's,
hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelak. Thank you for listening to the show. I would love if you could give us your opinion on how you felt about the show, your experience that you have in regards to what we've been talking about. I am having an absolute blast, but your input is like dynamite on that explosion. So give us your input. We'd love to hear from you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Give us everything you got. We love it. Thanks. I hope you're having an awesome day. Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelak, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Jen. Jen, thank you so much for being here with us today.
happy to be here.
So give everybody the highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
So I am the co-founder and CEO of a company called Gifted Travel Network, and we are what's called a travel host agency. So we're a B2B business, and our clients are travel and agencies, independent travel agencies. And so our passion is really cultivating success through travel entrepreneurship. So we help people teach and build successful travel businesses. And then, of course, we have all of the things that they need in order to access the resources they need to access to service their clients.
Awesome. So how did you get into this as your business?
Like anything that's really good accidentally. My first career was actually an executive at the Federal Reserve. And then I started and sold a small community-based business. And then actually my business partner, who had built her own travel business, had transitioned and doing coaching and education in that space because she wanted to teach people how to do it right. It's not an easy business to make a good living in the way it's historically been done for independent travel advisors. And so we wanted to teach people how to build a brand and how to market effectively and all of that kind of stuff. And then it just evolved from there. And then we wanted to really serve people in a full service way. So we started the host agency.
Fun. How did you got to go back to, you just kind of swung over it? Yeah, I used to work as executive for the federal. You get a job working at the federal, like that is
Reserve.
crazy. That the Federal Reserve is awesome.
Well, it's funny because I was so anti-math and science and anything that had anything to do with numbers, as a kid, all through high school, as a straight A student and everything, but I stopped at the minimum requirements of math. And then I picked my undergraduate program and went to Vassar College specifically because they didn't have a core curriculum. And I studied psychology and literature, and I was a Hispanic studies major. But I did take a money and banking class, and I just thought it was really fascinating, monetary policy and all of that, how that worked. And the New York Fed was interviewing at campus, and I interviewed with them, and I really liked the culture. So I started with them, and then I got my MBA at Columbia University in finance and management. So I eventually learned the numbers part that I needed to be able to do my job effectively. And I loved it. I was always doing something. Whatever the thing that was blowing up, or the problem situation, or the new thing that needed to be created, or the crisis, whatever it was, I would kind of go in and I'd set the strategy and I'd hire the people and I'd figure it out, and then I'd move on to the next thing. So it was always fun. It was always exciting, but it was a big job and it took me away from home a lot, and my kids were still sort of young. And I decided at one point after I relocated to the Charlotte area to start up a division, which was a big job, that I was kind of done with with that kind of a job, that kind of really high stress, crazy job. And so I hung up my suit, and that's when I switched to entrepreneurship.
I love it. Would you say that understanding and that foundation of understanding money and how it works, particularly in the US, has helped you to understand how to run a business, particularly in the US?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the problem solving ability and the analytical ability has helped me for sure in running a business. I mean, you need to do all the things, as you know, when you start a business. I think my liberal arts background actually helped me as much. I mean, you know, everything that
Right.
you learn is something that aids you in the next thing that you do.
Yep.
And so, you know, I've done so many different things and they apply in different ways, like things that I learned from being on, for example, the bank's investment review committee, we can apply to our project management processes in my company. And, you know, obviously understanding the financials really helps in terms of, you know, running a successful business. But setting the strategy, going in and figuring out a problem and how to solve it and setting the strategy and moving forward and staying agile, I think is the skill that carried me forward. You know, and along the way I picked up HR skills and you know, how to develop people, and I picked up technology skills, and I picked up, you know, like I'm a really good generalist from doing so many different things.
I love it, because I think that a lot of people have a real issue around understanding the fundamentals of money, like, and how it works, and particularly, you know, how our system works, because understanding not all systems are created equally, and I think you got a leg up on that.
Well, small businesses in particular, I mean, most people start a business because they're really passionate about whatever it is, whatever service or product that they're delivering. And most people don't have a business or finance background. And so, and like me, don't really love, I mean, I'm really good at it, I guess, but I don't really love numbers, but you need to be able to focus on that as a business owner. And we find in all the businesses that we help that a lot of people just have a blind spot in that area. And so we try and give them some, you know, some shortcuts and some overviews of like, this is how you can kind of track, this is how you build a budget, this is how you can do some scenario analysis, this is how you can kind of keep up with it on a regular basis. I mean, I actually say that the first thing that people should outsource is their bookkeeping. You know, even if you're good at it, it's not a revenue generating activity, right? It's an infrastructural thing that you need for your business. So outsource that first, but you still need to be able to look at the sort of the management report piece of it, right? You need to understand what it is that you're trying to drive in terms of the results of your business, and you need to know what things that you're going to do and how they affect your business. So I actually kind of came up with a formula for our travel agencies that shows exactly what the variables are that drive their revenue, so that they can play around with those variables and see what the impact is, because things like transaction size and yield can sound really complicated, but if you simplify it, you sort of boil it down into a framework, it makes it easier.
Absolutely. So I'm loving the direction in the conversation, and want to back up just a little bit, because you said something very fascinating, that the way that travel agencies had been run in the past wasn't a profitable engine. And so I think, and we're emphasizing the strategy. So let's go back to the strategy first before we look at the numbers. Unless, in your opinion, looking at the numbers allows you to see the errors in the strategy. So I'll let you take it whatever direction you wanted to go.
So it does. They're related, because if you think about sort of if you go kind of back historically, right? It was a travel agent. It was a very transactional thing. You went to a travel agent so that they could book you a ticket for something. And it was more of an order taking type of a thing. Like you needed them as an intermediary in order to, and then the internet came and you can go on, you can book things yourselves. And where the value add became for travel advisors is for somebody who has expertise and high customer service that can advise you, so you're spending your travel funds wisely, and so that you have a seamless experience, and they have access to resources and amenities and knowledge that you can't get as a regular consumer. That's where the value add is. Historically, you know, travel agents, you know, who went out on their own weren't really focused on what kind of business was going to be profitable for them. So they tended to just kind of take whatever came, or they would focus on small family vacations, weekend getaways, girlfriend things. And if you think about the monetary context, how many, like, let's say $2,000 vacations do you have to book in order to actually make a living on that?
Right.
So many that there aren't enough hours in the day to do it. As a solo entrepreneur, as a small business owner. So either you need to have a model where you can do huge scale, like an OTA, which is what we call an online travel agency, you know, where you've got a lot of automation and it's a commodity, and you don't have to do a whole lot of service on it. Or you need to focus on a business where there's a high value to advisory, and you've got higher transaction sizes, and you're providing a higher level of service. And so that's where luxury and group travel are much more, lend themselves much more to being able to run a profitable business. But people never did the math to understand that there are not enough hours in the day to book enough of these smaller vacations that people could actually make a living in it.
Well, and I always wondered that because people always wanted to be my travel agent. And I'm like, I feel so bad for you because like I know that I'm high maintenance. I know that I want all this stuff done. And is this right? And is that right? And and then when I go on it, it's like, great. And it's not, to me, it's just just the thing we do when we go and travel, because my partner wants everything to be kind of the T's crossed and the I's dotted. I couldn't care less, send me to the airport. Yeah. Somebody calls my name and goes, hey, this is the gate you're going through right now, and this is the plane you're getting on. I'd be fine with that. So
right.
I felt really bad for travel agents doing that. So I can understand the profitability in this. And it seems to me that it's a overhaul of not only how you do business, but what you're marketing, how you're presenting yourself. Like the entire game changes.
Yeah, I mean, for me as a consumer, because I mean, my background is not booking travel, so I can run a business, but I don't book my own travel. I go to a travel advisor and I say, I'm thinking of going to Thailand, figure it out for me. And I'm pretty easy because I'll just take the itinerary and be like, sounds good, here's the credit card, because I trust them. But planning is not something that I enjoy doing, and also it's not my expertise. So the amount of time that it would take me to be able to do the research, even though I could find access to the resources since I own a host agency, right, which most consumers can't even access, I still wouldn't want to do it myself. It's just not my, it's not my thing. I
feel the same way about marketing tech.
Yeah, but there are our advisors, who have these amazing travel businesses that are our members of our network, are so passionate and so knowledgeable, and they've traveled all over the world. And it's really fulfilling because if you think about it from their perspective, they get to create these life, experiences for people, whether it's families or a couple traveling together or a group traveling together, where they have, once in a lifetime type of experiences. They have memories that last forever. They feel very passionate about expanding our worldview, about opening up, to other cultures, about creating global citizens. So there's a passion and a purpose behind it. They're not just doing it so they can tick a box or create or cross things off their to-do list. It's really fulfilling for them. And so that's why they're really good at what they do.
Nice. So when they make that transition, because oftentimes I find entrepreneurs going from the passion projects into this will be more profitable for you. They're like, they have a lot of resistance around it going, yeah, but I feel like I'm selling out then. Now I'm just in it for the profit. And it's not true. I totally get that. And especially not true when you're dealing with big groups, because all of a sudden the skill set that they bring to the table is so much more appreciated. And it's like, oh, thank God you were there, because it's exponential. Having done a lot of these, it is exponentially difficult to do it. It's going from 2 to 4 people is one thing. Going from 2 to 200 is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's a mindset, and we do run across occasionally when we're coaching people, some that, they feel almost guilty about charging a client their professional services fee. But, any professional charges a fee for their service. If you're going to go to a lawyer or a financial advisor or anybody who's got expertise, you're paying for that expertise, and it's worth it, right? It's worth it for the time saved. It's worth it for the better experience that you're going to have. And so we do coaching on side of mindset and owning your value. There's nothing wrong with making a profit on something that you do well, no matter how much you love it.
Absolutely. And the time, money, effort that it saves. Oh my God. As a group leader taking somebody out, the emotional stress is in itself is, 110% of the effort that goes into something. Actually putting on the course or the thing is like infinitesimal to me. It's like I could do that in my sleep. That's like breathing to me. That's not the problem. Organizing everything, getting all of the things done that you guys do, that is to me like it's almost priceless. Like I wouldn't feel guilty charging for that any day of the week because I would throw
Absolutely.
money at you to solve those problems.
Yeah, and if you are, you know, a business leader and you're taking a group somewhere, or you're, you know, your energy should be in being, you're on the whole time, right? That's why people are there, you know, to be able to have those interactions with you. And so being depleted because you've been spending time and energy on a lot of details that are not your highest and best use isn't fair to you or the people who are going on the trip with you, right? Because we only have so much energy. So and I think that's true in running a business too, which is why delegation is so important, and hiring before you think you can afford it is so important, because as the person who is responsible for the strategy and growing of the business, you can't let yourself get weighed down by all the little things that are going to take your energy.
Absolutely. So talk to me about the strategy that you use and how you're helping people to make this transition for their travel agencies.
So we have sort of different business models of members, you know, members that have different business models that are different stages in their business. So one of the things that we do is we focus on people who are coming from other industries and are interested in building a travel business. And they could be coming, and the ones that are going to be most successful are ones that are, you know, have been successful in another career, are, you know, well networked, you know, enjoy researching, have that, you know, curiosity, have good general skill set. So we have people who've come from medical, finance, you know, all different kinds of careers, and a lot of them have been very successful. So we're fairly selective in that. So we have a new to the industry training program, and that one we're starting from really the beginning of, you know, let's talk about how you brand, let's talk about how you build your message, let's talk about how you build your marketing assets, let's talk about how you actually build a marketing foundation, let's talk about, you know, then how do you actually get access to all the resources that you need and learn how to do the process of consulting and selling travel. So we set them up from everything. So that includes setting up your business, understanding your financials, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And then we have people who may come to us who've already been in the travel industry for a while, but would like to grow their business in a way that they haven't really been successful in growing their business in the past, whether it's because they haven't had the ability to focus on it until now, or because they hadn't had the benefit of ever being in a community that was talking about things like, you know, how to attract the right kind of clients, how to service your clients efficiently. And so we have sort of group coaching programs for those agencies where they can talk about best practices and they can share things. And we have different members who are particularly good at one thing or another thing, and they come and they share their expertise on those areas. So it's a lot of collaboration. And then we do that all the way up to, we have a mastermind program for our top producing agencies that are talking about things at a different level, where they're really building teams, and they've got pretty well established agencies. So I feel like it's a spectrum, and, you know, what they need at different places along that spectrum of building their business is slightly different. I mean, the fundamentals are the same, but where they are in like implementing those fundamentals varies.
Very fun. So when it comes to the finances of things, have you noticed that there's kind of different aspects that they're looking at, or does it apply kind of across the board in business? You should be looking at these fundamentals. If you don't know how to read a P&L, this is what you're looking for, kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I think it kind of applies across the board. I mean, basically what I say is that there's a couple different elements to sort of managing your business financially. You know, the first is you need to understand what your sort of revenue target is. And so what I tell businesses, the best way to do that is to first come up with an expense projection. So go through all of the things that you need to spend your business on a day-to-day, month-to-month, or annual business. So you put in the things that are like the must, like your telephone bill and your website domain and things like that, that are ongoing businesses, you know, ongoing business expenses. And then include things that you know that you would like to invest in order to grow your business. So, you know, advertising budget, you know, sort of marketing budget, attending events, travel, things like that, that you need to do in order to grow your business. And come up with what that sort of baseline expense is for your sort of, you know, what you would like to do for your business. And then add to that what you want to pay yourself. And then that gives you a revenue goal. And then you can look at, based on that revenue goal, what does that look like in terms of the complement of your business or how you'd like to do business. And so what I tell them in the planning phase is the best way to do it is start with sort of a top-down strategic plan where you start with, first of all, start by articulating your vision again, because it's really important. If you just get all in the weeds and lose sight of your vision, you're going to go off track. So always start by getting tapped back into your big picture for your business. What do you want your business to look like? What do you want it to feel like? And then what's your message? What's your ideal client? Go through your branding, your marketing assets, your marketing plan, an operational plan, for efficiencies and client service and things that you want to delegate, all of that. In each of those things, you're going to have some strategic priorities, and some of those are going to have investments needs related to them. So you build those into this expense projection and your revenue projection. And then the second thing that you want to do is make sure that you've got the funds, that you've planned for the funds on an overall annual projection basis, also cash flow projection to be able to fund the business as you're growing it. And then on a monthly basis to go in and see how you're doing according to plan. And then separately from that, doing some scenario analysis. And that part I think is really important. So that's why I was talking about how we sort of built a tool to help them with the scenario analysis, because it's never going to show up exactly how you play around with it in scenario analysis, but it makes the revenue results that you want to achieve so much more attainable when you see how you can get there. And so in the travel business, that might look like, well, if I get X number of inquiries and my conversion rate is Y, then that means I'm going to have about this many bookings. And if my transaction size is this, that gives me this much in sales. And if my average yield, my commission rate is that, then that gives me my commission revenue, and you add that service fee revenue, and that gives you a number. And then you can say, okay, so if this is what my business is looking like today, and I was able to increase my transaction size from this amount to this amount, what does it do to my revenue number? And that helps people focus on more concrete goals than just an overall result. And I think that same sort of thinking can apply to any business. It just makes it, sort of more real. And then you can say, okay, well, if I want this many more inquiries, how am I going to do that? What's my list building strategy? What's my engagement strategy? So your financial plan is really related to your marketing plan, your operational plan, and all the rest of your strategic plan.
Nice. When it comes to that, the strategy of, I'll back up. Oftentimes I hear entrepreneurs say things like, I will market my business when I have the revenue to do so. I will hire that person when I have so much money. So there's a whole ton of if-thens that they haven't gone through the numbers like you're saying to do, so they don't know when that happens. But what do you say to people to get out of that mindset of if then and into, I know it's happening because I'm putting X amount of dollars away because we've implemented the plan.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that again, that's a mindset issue, and it's something to focus on in terms of mindset. And I always tell people one of the most important things for success or growth in your business is to hire ahead of growth. You have to actually make the investments before you have the funds to make the investments, because what happens is you get the capacity constraint and you can't grow unless you do something to invest in creating additional capacity for yourself. You're only one person. You only have 24 hours in a day. If you're so busy doing all the things that aren't your highest and best use, so you're not investing in additional help, or you're not investing in marketing, bringing the leads, or whatever it is, if you're sort of stuck, you're going to stay stuck. The only way through that is to invest. And I have coached, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of businesses. And I cannot tell you one single time where somebody made the decision to invest in hiring help when they thought they couldn't afford it, where the growth in the business as a result of that hire didn't more than pay for the investment in that person. And usually it's exponential. They make the decision to do that, to make the investment in the system or the person or the marketing or whatever it is. And then as a result, they get growth that far outpaces that investment. And the other thing is that, those decisions, if you make them, it's not like you can't go back. If you hire somebody and you don't have the result that you expected to have, you can always retract, but you can't grow if you don't do anything.
Right. You can't have an imaginary person there going, hey, what?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about entrepreneurship, right? You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because the magic happens outside your comfort zone, right? So you have to push through those fears and take the action anyway. even if you feel you're not ready, even if you don't have all your I's dotted and T's crossed, even if you're not sure it's the right thing, you have to do something in order to get results.
Absolutely. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you about one of your client Cinderella stories. But before we do that, we're going to take a little bit of a pause.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.
I am super excited to hear. Give us an example of a Cinderella story of one of your clients.
We have so many people that have just had phenomenal success. So maybe let me give you just a little bit of variety because I think they're really interesting. Like, for example, we have somebody who came to us who had built a travel agency, so was already in the business before they came to us. And she was super successful already on her own, just figuring out what she could figure out on her own. So she was with a very, very, very large network that didn't really provide her any support. She was one of their top producers. And then she came to us, and because of the community, because of what we teach, she hired people. She started serving, charging fees. She started understanding her numbers. And she says, I use Jen's magic spreadsheets, and really being proactive in terms of the way she was driving her business forward. And so she, since that time, has gone from doing about $600,000 in sales to doing, more like $4 million in sales. Nice. And so it's, it really made a big difference. And it's one of those examples of you kind of don't know what you don't know, which is why surrounding yourselves with other business owners and a community that is, forward thinking with like-minded people where you can share resources is so much better. I think that's one of the biggest challenges with entrepreneurship. We tend to do it on our own, and that's hard. So whatever your industry is in, if you can find others to collaborate or just other small businesses that are a similar place in business, that's really important. And then we had somebody who came who was an equity derivatives trader, a completely different thing, didn't honestly really need for it to be successful, but just was really passionate, wanted to start a travel business and is doing so well and, has such a strong business. It's like, I never thought, that it would become this so quickly. And then we have another person who's an oncologist, who's still full-time oncologist running an oncology department, who went from 0 to our top producers in 1 year.
Holy.
So it's everybody sort of has their own path and their own way, and there's lots and lots and lots of different stories. I think that what they all have in common, though, is that it was success beyond what the people anticipated for themselves, and that success was a result of being around others who are also successful and sort of helping them to create that path.
Nice. Well, and you mentioned that people with money don't necessarily need to run a successful business, but I think success begets success, and it's a lot more fun. Like, it's just way more fun to run a successful business than it is to run one that's struggling and trying to keep up and forging in a new direction. And, I get that there's a time and a place for that. And if you're going in to do something that's fun and passionate, like travel, like, oh, you're in travel. So it's like, you got to make it fun. And
absolutely.
How to not, I want to encourage people to have as much fun in it as they can and to have those successes. And when it's just the simple tweaks of, you don't know what you don't know, here, just do this instead of that. You're spending the same hour doing stuff anyway. Why not make it successful activity? It just makes sense.
Exactly.
I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start that journey with you?
Well, our website is www.giftedtravelnetwork.com, and we do have a piece that you can make available that I go through sort of what I talked about, that strategic planning process, which I know I ran through pretty quickly, and to get into a lot of depth, it explains a little bit more each of those strategic plan sort of sections and how to think through that for planning for your business.
Nice. So that is for people that are currently running a travel agency and wanting to look at kind of how to improve it.
Yeah, or anybody who's doing anything and
Okay.
has a passion for travel and is interested in building a successful travel business, we do have a program called the Travel MBA program that's just for that teaches you soup to nuts how to start a travel agency.
I love it. So are there any personality traits that you've noticed make particularly good travel agents or business owners in this realm?
I mean, it's a people business. And so clearly having that sort of outgoing personality, being inquisitive, wanting to learn about a lot of different places. I mean, because there's a breadth of knowledge. I mean, they sell the whole world, right? And so I think that that's really important. And also agility. You have to be fairly flexible because, first of all, the world's a fast moving place and things can change all the time. And so it's not the kind of thing where you figure something out and you set it down and then you don't have to touch it again. Chances are something's going to happen. There's a lot of moving parts. So it's never boring. And there is some very systematic things that have to happen that require a lot of attention to detail, but it also requires a lot of agility.
Love it. So we will, of course, have all of Jen's links in the show notes. Go ahead and scroll down, click on the links, open up in a new browser, because of course we're not done yet. So Jen, I get to ask you, at what point in life did you know that you were especially kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Well, I think it was when I decided that I wasn't ready for the next, sort of turnaround thing that I was going to do at the Fed, and it was time to hang up my suit. And then I couldn't think of anything else that I wanted to do that existed that required working for somebody else. So I started dabbling, and I said I started that community-based business. And then once you go entrepreneur, you can never go back. Right?
Right.
Having the freedom to do things the way you want to do it is really, there's nothing like it. So it requires some guts, right? Because you definitely, like I said, working outside that comfort zone, but there's a lot of power in that too.
I love it. You've been absolutely awesome. Any last words for our peeps?
No, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. And I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time and I know how valuable it is.
All right. Thank you.
Peeps, thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show, share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.